Although many people talk about how terrible slavery is, sometimes we overlook the worst slavery of all. Although we may think slavery is not nearly as common today as it once was, sometimes we're blind to the slaves that are in billions of homes throughout this world. You see, I'm not talking about one person being slave to another person. Instead, I'm talking about slavery to sin and things that would control us. Rather than serving God, who is a loving and good master, many people sell themselves to another and experience devastating consequences. First, consider Romans 6, verses 15 to 23. Whenever Paul was writing to the Roman Christians, he wanted them to recognize that it was unacceptable for Christians to continue living for sin. So he asked them in verse 16, "Don't you know that if you offer yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of that one you obey, either of sin leading to death or of obedience leading to righteousness? So those who live to please themselves sign up for slavery to sin. They let sin have control over their lives. And those who offer themselves as slaves to impurity often find themselves committing greater and greater lawlessness, as verse 19 refers to. For when you let sin reign over your life, it wants all of you. It wants you to become progressively involved in greater wickedness so that you do nothing that is good. The result, however, is shame and spiritual death, as you can see in verses 21 to 23. Therefore, you must not allow sin to master you if you desire to please God and go to heaven. Don't let it even get a small foothold, because it will not stop there. Second, consider 1 Corinthians 6, verses 12 to 20. Even things that have a God-approved place in your life can sign you up for slavery if you're not careful. Whenever Paul wrote to the Christians in Corinth, he said in 1 Corinthians 6 and verse 12, "Everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything." For instance, he goes on to talk about how God has created the sexual relationship, but how it can be misused. And Christians must always remember that their bodies belong to God and not to themselves. Therefore, you must not sign yourself up for any kind of slavery. Don't allow yourself to become so dependent on anything that it will take precedence over glorifying God in your body. Third, you need to ask yourself, what have you let master you? God wants you to be focused on serving and glorifying Him in your life. But you can't do that if you become a slave to something else. Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's a drug. Maybe it's entertainment. Maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's sex. Maybe it's gambling. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe it's tobacco. Maybe it's food. Maybe it's an emotion. You need to take a moment and honestly evaluate yourself and see if you have allowed anything to master you. Either something that is inherently sinful or something that may have a God-approved place that you have allowed to go too far so as to no longer have control over it. And then fourth, you must choose God as your only master. As you evaluate your life, you must only have one master, and nothing that gets in the way of that master having His way in your life. Jesus said in Matthew 6 and verse 24, "No one can serve two masters, since either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." You cannot serve two different masters. So, choose God, and He will save you. Don't let anything master you. God wants to use your life for wonderful things, to bring glory to Him. Only devote yourself to Him.